Good morning. In the General English session today, we are going to read the poem We Are Going by Udgero Nunukal, the Australian Aboriginal writer. I hope you are familiar with the term Aborigine. Aborigine is a term that refers to the original population of Australia, the tribes of Australia, before the colonization of Australia by British colonists. The Aborigines constituted the majority population of Australia. And with the arrival of the colonists, a good percentage of the population of Aborigines were killed. Some of them survived, but even those who survived, they continued to live as the minority in their own land. The colonists established their empire there, their colony. They established the ways of their own culture. They snatched land from the original population and oppressed and exploited the original population in order to get the upper hand. This particular poem actually represents the pain of losing one's land and culture. So let's read the rest of the introduction. Udgero Nunukal, also called Kath Walker, was an Aboriginal rights activist, educator, and cultural ambassador. She was born to Edward Ruska and Lucy as Kathleen Ran Mary Ruska in North Stradbroke Island. Her father belonged to the Nunukal tribe, who were the traditional inhabitants of Minjerribah. His Aboriginal activism to better the conditions of Aboriginal workers left a lasting impression on her, which she was to take up later in her life. As you can guess, the colonists forced the Aborigines to work under extremely bad conditions, exactly as they did with the American slaves, the black slaves of America. And there were lots of movements to revive the conditions of Australian Aborigines. And here you can see Udgero Nunukal's father, who belonged to the Nunukal tribe, was among the Aboriginal activists who tried to better the conditions of Aboriginal workers. She adopted the traditional name of Udgero Nunukal in 1988 to express her solidarity with her tribe. Udgero meant paper bark, and Nunukal was the name of the tribe. So, leaving her English name, Kathleen Ran Mary Ruska, she adopted the name Udgero Nunukal in order to express her identity as one among the tribe. Udgero meant paper bark, we have already read that. Kath Walker also changed her name in 1988 as a way of stripping the label given to her by invading forces and adopted a traditional name. So there was another reason for her choice of the name Udgero Nunukal. That was because she did not want anything that was English. Kath Walker was the name that was English in tongue. It was in the English language, and she did not want a label that was given to her by the invading forces, and she gave that up in order to adopt a traditional name. We Are Going, published in 1964, was her first volume of poetry and the first to be published by an Australian Aboriginal woman. The poem We Are Going deals with the themes of colonization, oppression, dispossession. Dispossession refers to the loss of one's property. The entire land of Australia was the property of the tribes, and that was lost due to the invasion of the colonists. And cultural disinheritance. It was not just their land that was lost, their culture was also lost due to the intrusion of the colonists. The tone of the poem is quite melancholic as the poet describes the coming of the white settlers and the consequent eroding of the Aboriginal ways. So the tone of the poem is sad. The poet describes the coming of the white settlers and the erosion of the Aboriginal culture as such. You must note at this point that the culture of the Aborigines, it actually taught them to live in perfect association with nature. As you can consider in the case of any tribal population, they live in close association with nature without harming nature as per the rules of the nature. But you can see that with the arrival of the white men, this balance of life was lost among the tribal populations, and they were forced to adopt many of the ways of the white people. They were forced to give up their own culture and were forced to adopt the lifestyle of the white men. The white man snatched their land, converted it to garbage dumping grounds, and stripped them of their customs. The Aboriginals became total strangers in their own land. The poem does not have a distinct structure but paints the loss of land, tradition, culture, and customs in a very poignant way. Poignant means evoking a keen sense of sadness. In that way, the poem reveals the experience of dispossession experienced by the Australian Aborigines.